Hey guys, welcome back. It's Michelle Taylor Willis on the According to Michelle show. And my next guest, I'm very excited to introduce to you because he is truly on the forefront. He's leading the charge in the space of renewable energy. And we're hoping that we'll get him doing some really cool things right here in Atlanta. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Steve Anglin. And Steve is the founder and CEO right now of a company called WeSolar, a renewable energy company based out of New Jersey. But he has his sights and his heights set on Atlanta. Welcome to the show, Steve.
Wow. Well, thank you for inviting me, and I'm happy to be here with you, Michelle.
Yes, and I didn't say he's from England, so I have to say this to everybody who has a British accent. Shine your shoes, governor. How was that? Do I sound like...
Yeah, you sound like an American doing a Cockney accent.
What? I thought it sounds. If I went to England and I used that, you don't think people would think I was a native?
Well, if you said it, don't smile when you say it.
Oh, is it better like this? Shine your shoes, governor.
Yeah.
Is that more?
Sounds kind of American, but that's all right. So I've been in America for a long time, so I've been in America.
And you still have the accent.
Well, just a few words, right? So for over 35 years, I've been in America for a while. I came in when I was just a teenager, and that's part of my story, being born and raised in England and coming to America. Didn't really have a lot. My parents weren't very wealthy, and I moved to New Jersey. We lived there. I went to high school, college in New Jersey, and that's sort of the start. I majored in finance, and then when I got out, there was a recession. There wasn't many jobs. I ended up working in a bank doing accounting. I hated that. It was very boring, but I did it.
You hated working in the bank, or you hated accounting?
I wasn't. It was a job. I felt like, okay, I got out of school. My parents were like, oh, you have to do finance, and then I did that, and then I ended up doing accounting. I thought it was very boring, holdings accounting, and then from there I kind of said, okay, I'd like to do something. I moved into New York City and worked for JP Morgan, and I'll give you a quick background to who I am and how did I get here. At JP Morgan for, I would say, off and on for about 12 years.
And this is on the trading floor?
This is in trading, in derivatives. It was derivatives trading, so collateral risk management. I did some IT projects, pretty big ones. And then I moved into project management.
Now I want to stop you here because I think it's interesting. So you're a black man, right? Clearly. How old were you when you moved from England?
12.
You were 12. So I've got a couple questions for you because I find this fascinating.
Okay.
What was the biggest difference that you could say, right, as a black man being in England and now being in the United States? That's the first question. The second question was, I want to parlay that experience to what it was like being on the trading floor as a black man. I would imagine there weren't a lot of you floating around 30-something years ago, right?
No.
So the first thing is, what's the difference? Black in England, black in America?
Good question. Actually, the biggest thing, I would say, being 12 years old, coming to America, didn't know what to expect, never traveled. I remember getting on the plane, hearing this little kid talking to his mom, like, "Mommy." I was like, "What?" It just sounded so weird, because we say "mommy," and they're like, "Mommy." I was like, wow, so weird. Then I get off in JFK, typical immigrant story, right? Get off in JFK, John F. Kennedy Airport in New York. There was a major snowstorm, and it was just, everything was bigger than life. When you land in New York, all these lights, and then my uncle picked us up in this huge Oldsmobile, like 3 or 4 of us could sit in the front row.
Like with no seatbelts, right?
It was like, it was a different world for me. And then, the biggest thing is when you start school. So my parents didn't plan it perfectly. They didn't say, oh, we're going to end the school year, we're going to move, we're going to get the shipping people. No, it was like, we're moving in the middle of the school year.
What drove them to move?
Well, my dad's an interior decorator.
Got you.
My mom was just a nurse, wasn't really, back in 1979 when I came here, were you born?
Barely.
There was something called stagflation. So for you guys who like to look stuff up, look up stagflation, and you'll see 1979 England. The prime minister was a guy called Callahan, right after Edward Heath and before Margaret Thatcher. And that just means high inflation and high unemployment. it's a very bad situation. So a lot of people left England, and some of them came here. So that's why we came.
Got you. Okay.
It was, just for a better life, and I think it was the best thing my parents could have ever done, because I don't think I'll be at this point where I am today if they didn't take that sacrifice.
Right.
So the biggest change, just to finish that, is when I was 12, and I remember going to school, and the teacher was writing on the board. And I speak English, I read English, but I couldn't understand the word that she was writing.
Really? It looked like a
cursive.
foreign language.
Yeah, because we didn't write with cursive. We wrote the R's like a regular R. I was like, what's that? And she goes, make sure you put a period at the end of the sentence. A period? You mean a full stop? And then
wait, a period is called a full stop?
in England, a period is called a full stop. So when you're 12 and and also all the math, so you guys call it math, we call it maths over there. So and then long division is done differently. So it's very traumatic, and I think it taught me how to deal with change.
Right.
Be able to adapt to change. And I think that's, regardless of you're black or white, if you're in Wall Street, it's about quickly learning and being able to adapt and being successful, or else you won't make it. It's very true about if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere, because
right.
And you just have to really work hard. And I always say that too. Don't expect to come in, oh, I'm a CEO, and then not expect to really work hard and love it. Like, I work 7 days a week, you probably know that, and I love it. I work 10, 12 hours a day. I'm always switched on. So in England, when I grew up there, which is a big part of my life, right? So I still remember everything. It wasn't the same as it is here. I don't think there was, in my eyes, there was not a focus on black or white. It's like, that's my friend, Indian, white, whatever. Nobody even, it wasn't that big of a deal in England.
Right.
That's my experience.
Right.
So when I came here, and even to this day, I don't focus on that. I'm sorry if I just don't focus on
it's fine.
color.
Yeah.
You just have to be good at what you do. You could be black, white, Spanish, Indian, Chinese. You just have to be good and hungry and passionate about what you're doing. And if that's the case, you're fine with me. If someone wants to focus on race, then they're probably not the right guy or person for my company.
Wow, I love that. I love that. So you said that banking and accounting and all that was boring for you. How did you end up on Wall Street? Because that's the opposite of being boring, right? I mean, it's never a boring moment.
So no, Wall Street, when people say Wall Street, they're actually referring to various industries. So there's trade, and there's accounts, and there's Federal Reserve Bank stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on Wall Street. And it's not just on Wall Street, it's all throughout New York City is Wall Street, right? So at the end of the day, I didn't like that part of finance. I really enjoyed derivatives. I was actually, when I left JP, I was probably one of the best in the business at derivatives collateral management. So I had a reputation, people knew who I was.
So explain to us, our listening audience, and guys, we're here with Steve Anglin, who is the CEO and co-founder of WeSolar, a renewable energy company based out of New York that's coming to start doing business in Atlanta. But he spent most of his professional career on Wall Street, which we now know is all throughout New York. It's not just the one street.
It's not that little small street downtown.
And he's talking about derivatives. So for our viewing audience, could you explain to us what derivatives are?
Yeah, so honestly, I won't, because it is a little esoteric and can be boring. I don't want to make this interview about finance. They're instruments that are used to hedge risk. That's all.
Got you.
And they're used by a lot of, and hedging risk just means that if you have exposure, so you buy an asset and there's variable rate exposure in the asset, you may want to lock in the rates with interest rate swaps, and you can. And then this world was very controlled with Dodd-Frank. Barack Obama put Dodd-Frank out there to control all the stuff that happened after the 2008 crash.
So you just did it, and it made it very basic and simple for us. See?
Yeah, and, the one thing I could say is everything that I've done, I think I told you this already. Everything I've done in my life, living in another country, going through school, Rutgers was really hard. My parents didn't have a lot of money, so I basically paid and worked my way through school, getting my degree that I felt, this is actually worth something. It wasn't like my parents paid for everything.
Right.
I didn't live on campus. I worked. It was really tough, and that's why I appreciated it. And then all these different jobs that I had on Wall Street, and then when I went to graduate school, I did an executive MBA program, and I studied in Turkey, Prague, and Poland. And that's where I met my initial co-founder for WeSolar CSP. It was just by happenstance or fate, and we met. And basically he said, look, Steve, I'm trying to raise money. I'm trying to bring my company from Turkey to the US. And I said, hey, I can help you. Turned out that I couldn't help him through my company, but I could help him as just starting this company.
Got it. So he came to you while you were actually on Wall Street. You looking for, got it. And you said you would want to actually get involved in his.
No, initially, but then that wasn't working. So we said, let me start a company. I'll call it WeSolar CSP. So,
got you.
So, and we just use this technology. It's like a mashup. Think of it like that, right? So it's an American company that we do renewable energy. We build utility-sized solar power plants, and we do them globally. So one's already in Turkey. We've got a big deal in India. We're talking to folks in Arizona. And we're here.
And you've got, I was going to say, in Georgia.
So the big win is here. We're in Atlanta doing having some very interesting conversations. I was with you today. We met with some of the mayors. Just now, we just spoke to another mayor. So we like Atlanta for many reasons, and we think that especially SOFU would be something that we could definitely do a lot here and other parts of the country. And so let me just say, if you don't know what CSP is, because renewable energy, most people in America, they think about solar panels.
Right, and I wanted you to kind of expound on that, right? And not to get too deep in the weeds with it, but to really educate us on what renewable energy looks like in America.
Right, so most of you know that renewable energy is something that is starting to become like the cool, hot thing. Everyone wants to work in solar and everything today. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, nobody cared, right? So I'll put the solar panels on my roof. So renewable energy is a broad umbrella definition. So under that is solar, wind, hydro, like, you got Niagara Falls and it spins a turbine, and then you've got biomass, and there's many different forms of renewables. So in America, we were leading the world for many decades in energy. Most of it tended to be oil, and even in coal, the industrial age coal. And we have a lot of coal plants, especially west of the Mississippi and in Tennessee, Georgia, there's coal here. But we all know now that the coal, when it gets burned, because that's what they do, they go, there's a coal mine somewhere, and they dig down a couple thousand feet, they dig up coal, they put it on a train. That train then comes to the power plant, they burn the coal, that's what they do, they burn it. It then lets out all these hydrocarbons, carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, all the stuff, methane, you name it. And then that heat that it produces, which is about 550 centigrade, that heats up water. That's what the purpose of, just to heat up the water, to create steam, industrialized steam. That steam then turns a turbine, which is like an aircraft engine backwards, and that basically causes something called DC electricity that gets pushed into a substation, gets converted, and then goes into the grid, into the transmission lines as AC electricity that then comes into everyone's house. You flip on the lights. So
gosh, that's a lot of work for me to just go flip I mean, that's not like fascinating stuff.
No, it's very,
but I mean, to think when you frame it that way, it makes so much sense when people say now, turn off the lights, or you're using too much electricity, because it takes, I mean, just listening to that, you was like, oh my gosh, like what, just for me to flip a light on and to get the lights that we have on in the studio.
Especially at night, especially after the sun goes down, everyone comes home, they flip on the AC, they flip on the lights, and then the system gets, they call it base load. They go, whoa, it can't take it. So they've got power plants, smaller power plants, they're called peaker plants. And then they kick on, and they could be natural gas or nuclear, and they kick on and they basically bring back up, because the demand is high in the evening, and then it dips off at 9, 10 o'clock at night, everyone goes to bed. Then in the morning, there's another peaker moment. So how does solar fit into this? So we take the sun, and we concentrate the light of the sun. We have something called an ASC concentrator. and that basically heats up a transfer fluid to over 1,000 centigrade. Remember I told you it's 550 centigrade with coal?
Yeah.
This is over 1,000 centigrade. So what does that do? We can do more than just provide electricity, turn a turbine. We can actually do something called process heat. So what's process heat? There's a guy called Bill Gates, you probably all know him.
I've never heard of him.
I think he's the second richest man in the world.
Don't know who he is.
So he just jumped into our business, concentrated solar power. And what he just started a company, $200 million, called Heliogen. I just promoted his company, but that's okay. There's not too many companies that do what we do. So he basically, he's a smart guy. He's like, look, most of the carbon and stuff that we're putting into the atmosphere comes from industry. It doesn't come from cars, it doesn't come from trains, it doesn't come from electricity generation, it comes from industry. So that's making cement, making coal, making glass, all these big factories. That's where a lot of the stuff. So his company, Heliogen, their goal is to replace all of the coal and the oil that's being burned to do industry and get the power there and replace it with solar power. So process heat is what we can do. That's what Bill Gates does.
I mean, that's not a bad class to be in, right? With the same.
We just don't have. So there's a funny joke that my CTO, Chief Technology Officer, says. It's a funny joke. He says Heliogen or Bill Gates, they spent $200 million and used artificial intelligence to get to 1,000 or 1,500 centigrade. We used real intelligence to get to the same.
That is a joke.
It's a little bit of a corny joke, but he says it all the time and he chuckles, so I think it's funny. I can't believe I just said that.
But point taken, though. But point taken. So, but I would imagine that Georgia is a great state for you because the sun. I mean, even today I was out and it was just like there was so much sun. And even when it's raining, there's still opportunity. I think people have the misconception that just because the sun, you can't see the sun or it's not as bright, it doesn't mean it's still not generating or able to generate energy, right?
Yeah, so there's a group in America. So in America, there's 17 national labs, and these are the smartest guys in the room kind of thing. The one that focuses on...
So you're in one of the labs?
So, yeah, so...
That was a joke, you get it?
What? I'm sorry. Governor?
Guys, we're sitting here with Steve Anglin. Steve is the CEO and co-founder for WeSolar CSP, a renewable energy company that is here in America, headquartered in New Jersey, and we're hoping that they'll be doing some incredible work right here in the Atlanta area. So Steve is from England. What he's going to do is give me like the word that they call something in England, and I'm going to figure out what the equivalent would be here in the United States. Doesn't that sound like fun? I'm absolutely going to make a fool of myself, but isn't that why you tune in? You're welcome early. Okay. So, you understand the game, right?
I understand the game.
Right,
so the first word is bonnet.
Bonnet. It's a hat. A bonnet is absolutely a hat.
How many chances do you get?
2 chances. So it's not a hat.
No.
A bonnet? A condom.
Okay, the answer is, because I don't know where this is going. This is a show or something. So, the answer is actually the hood of a car.
That's a bonnet.
Yeah.
So look under the bonnet.
Yeah. Okay, this is a good one. A biscuit.
A biscuit. A cookie. A cracker.
No. Cookie.
It's a cookie? I got it right?
Yeah.
You see that? The first one was like, I got it wrong on purpose because I'm always getting stuff right and it just gets old to be right all the time. So thanks for coming on. As you know, anything that we can do, anything that I can do to help you, we absolutely will. But if someone's interested in doing business with you or with WeSolar CSP, how will they find you? You want to tell the camera?
Yeah, so I want to say thank you to you, Michelle. You're lovely. You're full of energy. You're very, very smart. You've helped me out on LinkedIn how to use it properly, so I appreciate that. And if you want to find out more about WeSolar CSP, if you want to learn more about what we're doing, we have a website. It's www.wesolarcsp.com. And you can go there, you can reach out to us, learn more about our products. So that's electrical generation through clean energy, thermal energy storage or long duration energy storage, water desalination, and process heat. Those are the 4 things that we do. We think there's a $1 trillion market out there that we're going after. And if you want to reach me directly, my email is Steve, S-T-E-V-E, at WeSolarCSP.com. And my phone number, if you want that, is area code 732-579-7014. And I'm happy to talk to anyone that wants to learn more about this industry. Come work for WeSolar. We're always looking to bring new people in. Or if you're just looking for a mentor, someone just to, if you're younger, you want to find out more about this industry, I'm happy to chat with you about anything you want.
Awesome. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
And as always, thank you for tuning in to another episode of According to Michelle. It's me, Michelle Taylor Willis. And if you want to find me, you can on just about everything at Michelle Taylor Willis. And you can always find me right here on the AIB Network every Wednesday at 5 p.m. On AIB. And of course, if you don't have Comcast or AT&T, you can always just look us up on the internet. AIBTV.com, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, see ya.